Okay, so today again we'll start with a topic that is image classification. Yesterday we had a brief about what are the various methods. Now today we'll be going more into detail about the various techniques and the classification scheme that we are going to use for image classification. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Getting it? You can see it?
Yes, sir.
So what we are doing about what we are studying is a topic related to image classification. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll be fixing it. Now, what is the overall objective of doing image classification? The overall objective of image classification is to automatically characterize all pixels in an image into land use, land cover classification. So what you have to do, you have to classify each and every pixel, the digital number, what it is corresponding. What happens? Satellite images senses the object. Now that senses the sensing of the object is done in the form of digital number. Now you have to classify that this digital number that is in the form of pixels to get a classified image. So the image classification operation performs assigning of each pixel to a particular land use land cover category. Normally, multispectral data are used to perform the classification. So when you want to classify a image, generally it's tough to classify a panchromatic image because all the things will be seen in black and white. So there the differentiation between the various earth objects is quite different. But when you take a multispectral images, the spectral pattern present within the data of each pixel is used as the numerical basis for characterization. So what we do, we use that digital number that is converted in the form of color, in the form of tone, in the form of texture for classifying the earth object, and that is different feature type manifest different combination of digital number based on their inherent spectral reflectance and emittance property. So what it's trying to say, like each and every object has got a digital number. So if we identify those digital number key for which particular class of feature they correspond to, you can easily identify those satellite images and their features. So the term classifier, so we have already known why we are classifying it. Now there is very important technique that is used for classification, that is classifier. So the term classifier refers loosely to a computer program that implements a specific procedure for image classification. So what does classifier provides you? That provides you a program, a command that helps you to identify, that helps you to discriminate the different earth features. So over the years, the scientists have devised many classification strategies. You have got unsupervised classification, you have got supervised classification, you have got object-based classification, you have got hybrid classification, you have got subpixel classification, you have got neural network classification. So a lot of classification techniques have been evolved during the decade in order to solve your purpose, and for each and every part, for each and every object, for each and everything, your classification technique may vary. So from these alternatives, the analyst must select the classifier that will best accomplish a specific task. So according to your need, you will be going for the best solution to get each and every image classified. So generally, when we are talking about the traditional classification technique, when we are talking about the orthodox classification technique, we are talking about supervised classification, we are talking about unsupervised classification. So they are the traditional techniques, supervised and unsupervised. So unsupervised approach attempts spectral grouping that may have an unclear meaning from the user's point of view. So maybe from the my point of view, what is the basis on the basis of which the classes are classified using the unsupervised is subjective in nature, and that differs from image to image. But in supervised classification technique, What we provide, the imager, the user provide the signature to the classifier, and on the basis of those characteristics, on the basis of those spectral identification, on the basis of those training areas, the entire image is classified. So getting it? So it's very important to understand ki what is unsupervised classification technique and what is supervised classification technique. So unsupervised classification do not utilizes training data. So in unsupervised classification technique, we do not provide training data sets, but is based on classification that is based on algorithm. So what are those algorithm? So rather than family of classifier involves algorithm that examine the unknown pixel in an image, aggregate them into a number of class based on their natural grouping or clusters present in an image value. So what it is saying, what does the when you select the option unsupervised classification, the system automatically generates the number of grouping of classes into a particular group, and that is in the form of cluster, that is in the form of group, and that is automatic, that the system generates itself. It performs very well in cases where the values within a given cover types are close together in the measurement space, and data in different class are comparatively well separate. So what it is saying, if the class value is equally distributed throughout the area and throughout the spectrum, this classification technique will give you the best result if it is uniformly distributed. The classes that result from unsupervised classification are spectral classes. So what they are trying to do when you are grouping it, it is trying to make the spectral classes that is solely based on natural grouping in the image value that identify the spectral classes to be initially known. The analyst must compare the classified data with some form of reference data to determine and identify the information value of the spectral classes. So what we do is the system automatically generates the spectral classes clusters, and it rearrange the classes according to the number of times we have provided the iteration. So each iteration it will be changing the class value, and it will be making a more composite value. Like for example, if we are saying that in a class we are going to make four groups, and that groups has to be decided by the student for a group discussion. So generally what you will do, you will try to sit with your classmates where you are very familiar with whom you are very you can easily express your thoughts. But maybe some student after seeing the success of the other group would like to change their group in order to get the success. So in the same way, in unsupervised classification also, the pixels are classified into various groups, but maybe some of the pixels are wrongly classified into a particular group. So when we are providing different kinds of algorithm, when we are providing different kinds of iteration, each iteration the pixels value are rearranged so as the best perfect combination, the best pair stays in the same group, and the dissimilar sets of pixels goes on to the other group, but there the values will be closer to their own group. Like uh, if you go for the partition, it was happened in 1947. So what was the basis? The basis was the religion, where on the basis of the religion the people migrated to two different countries, but still many of the people want to change their origin. Like somebody wants to go to Pakistan, maybe from a specific community, and somebody from a specific community wants to come to India. In the same way, it happens in unsupervised classification technique also. You will be classifying the image, and then you will be using the different algorithm, and the system will automatically rearrange the classes so that the classes with the same distal number or the same class value remains in the same group, and there can be differentiation of different classes. In unsupervised, we define useful information categories, and then example their spectral separability. So if you compare with the supervised classification technique, there what we are doing, we are providing the spectral response signature to the image, to the software. On the basis of those spectral editor, on the basis of those spectral classes, the image is classified. So when you talk about unsupervised classification technique, the most important algorithm that we are using for getting that classification done is ISO-data technique. ISO-data technique. ISO-data means interaction self-organizing data analysis technique. Means interaction means it will be interacting with the various pixels. Self-organizing means it will automatically make its own data set that is called self organized, like if you're staying in a hostel, when you stay at a home, each and everything is prepared by your mom, by your sister. But when you're living in a hostel, the entire food has to be prepared by you, entire clothing has to be washed by yourself. So what is that? That is self organized. So in the same way, in the system also, the pixels are self organized in order to get the same class ranges in the same group, and accepts the analyst the number of clusters to be located in the data. Okay, getting it? So each pixel in an image is then assigned to the clusters whose arbitrary mean vector is closest. After all pixel has been classified in this manner, the revised mean vector for each of the clusters are computed. The revised mean are then used as a basis of reclassification of the image data. This procedure continues until there is no significant change in the location of the class mean vector between the successive iteration of the algorithm. Once this point is reached, the analyst determine the land cover identity of each spectral class. Because the k-mean approach is iterative, it is computationally intensive, therefore it is often applied to image sub-areas rather than to the full screen. There are thousands of pixels in a remote sentient data. If they are considered individually as prospective members of group, the distance to the other pixel can always be used to define group members. So how such distance is calculated? When you're seeing that the entire thing is based on the distance, how this distance is calculated, a number of methods to finding the distance in multispectral dimension are available. One of the most important, simplest uh, distance to take out the mean distance is known as Euclidean distance. What is this? Where this is the formula that will be using it, where I represent one of the n spectral bands, A and B are the pixels data, and DAB is the distance between two pixels. So the distance calculatum is based on Pythagoras theorem, in which the we are suggesting that C, A, B, and C are measures of the units of the two spectral channel. So when you are using this formula, your distance will be calculated. Your mean distance from each pixels will be calculated. So what is the advantage? The advantage of unsupervised classification technique is that no extensive prior knowledge of the region is required. Like if you are from Rajasthan, and if I give a satellite image to you of northeastern area, maybe of Assam, maybe of Manipur, maybe of Nagaland, prior knowledge is not required. You can have a uh, what prima facie land use land cover can be generated, can be known using unsupervised classification technique, where we can have a overall, if I am not from that terrain, I am want to go for some kind of exploration in that area. So first I want to know what is the land use land cover in that area, how much area is forest, how much area is settlement, how much area is wasteland, how much area is agricultural land. So for that, prior knowledge for classifying unsupervised classification technique. Prior knowledge is not required. The opportunity for human error is minimized because the computer classifies the each and every pixels automatically on the basis of self-organizing mean vector distance. So what it helps? It helps that in case of a supervised classification technique, we are providing signatures to the data set. So maybe we are biased, maybe we are providing wrong signature. Like if I have selected a signature in which I am stating that it's agricultural land, but when I have selected the signature consists of agricultural land, wasteland, and settlement. Because few pixels of uh, wasteland and few pixels of settlement were taken as a signature for classifying the signature editor for supervised classification. So there can be error because we are inducing the error, that is a human induced error, and that differs from person to person. So if I do provide an image to each and every you and will say that please classify the satellite images using supervised classification technique, the accuracy of the data sets will be different for different person. Like for Rishabh it will be different, from Rahul it will be different, for Mosmi it will be different. But if you are going for a unsupervised classification technique, the image is same, the process, the mathematical equation is same. So more or less if you want to get a result, the result will be same for Mosmi, will be same for Rishabh, will be same for Rahul. So unique classes are recognized as distinct unit. So obviously it will be having a distinct unit and we can identify the different classes. So but when you are saying that each and every operation has got an advantage, but when you have got an advantage, there is always a limitation and a disadvantage related to any of the classification technique. So disadvantage is the disadvantage and limitation arise primarily from the reliance on natural grouping. Now, the basic fundamental about this operation is that the system automatically groups or creates a natural group. Now, what is the basis of creating that natural group can be a point of debate, and maybe many times the system can group a class which doesn't respond or doesn't connect to that land use land cover. So what happens that I am presuming that this is Rahul, but maybe he is not Rahul, he is Rishabh. So many times uh, the system misclassifies or misjudges a particular feature because he or she or the system is automatically generating the classes. So unsupervised classification identifies spectrally homogeneous classes within the data. These classes do not necessarily correspond to the informal categories. They are of interest to the analyst. As a result, the analyst is faced with the problem of matching spectral classes generated by classification to the informal classes that are required by the ultimate user of the information. So what it is trying to say? It is trying to see that many times the classes maybe they are very close to each other. The spectral or distal number or the tone is similar to each other, but they correspond to a different class. Like uh, uh, what I will say, the class value of build up, the signature of a riverine sand, the signature of a glacier, the signature of a snow, the signature of a riverine sand is similar in nature, and their spectral response is also near about the same. So when the system automatically generates the classification technique, maybe the system will classify the snow or glaciers as a riverine sand as a build-up area. So you know that whatever classification that the system has automatically generated by grouping the number of pixels into cluster, the cluster that the system generated doesn't correspond to or doesn't connect to the same area. They are two different features, but because the distal number are near about similar in nature, that's why the system has taken as a single class. So there can be a misclassification in terms of classification of the data. Secondly, spectral properties of specific information classes will change over a time, maybe on a season, or on a year. As a result, the relationship between information classes and spectral classes are not constant, and relationship defined for one image cannot be seldom extended to the other. So what it is saying, maybe because there is a change in the season, there is a change in the year of capturing of the data. So many time if you have classified an image and you want to just use this logic to the other images of the other season or over the decade, the logic or the combination what on the basis of which we are classifying the data cannot be the same for each and every year. So maybe the result what we are getting, or maybe the classified image what we are going to be going to be generated is not of that international value that we are expecting in. Next come supervised classification technique. Supervised classification techniques can be defined normally as a process of samples of known identity to classify pixels of unknown identity. So what we are trying to say is, in supervised classification technique, because we know the field very well, we have the prior knowledge of the area, maybe we have taken some ground truthing before classification, or whether I do belong to that area. So what I know that this spectral reflectance corresponds to agriculture. This spectral reflectance corresponds to forest. This spectral signature corresponds to build up, and a particular spectral reflectance corresponds to wasteland. So we are knowing that this is that feature or that is a class, and what is the signature. Like in standard false color composite, we know how the buildup looks, how the wasteland looks, how the forest looks, how the agricultural looks, how the river looks, how the glacier looks. So what is that? That is known as a prior knowledge in that area, and we'll be using that prior knowledge to classify. We'll be taking some signatures from each of the class, the sample size, and we'll be using that class for training the entire data set. Just like the interpolation technique, what we do on the basis of we go into the field, we do limited features related to groundwater sampling of few location, and on the basis of those few location of the sample size, we try to explain, we try to define the entire water table in that area, what is the pre-monsoon and what is the post-monsoon water table area. In the same way, in supervised classification technique also, we'll be identifying those pixels which are known to us, and those information will be shaped as a spectral signature, and those spectral signatures will be used to classify the training data. So the samples of known identity are those pixels located within the training area. So we'll be providing the training sites. Pixels located within the areas are termed as training samples. So what we do when we are taking a signatures, the signatures what we are taking and the pixels that comes within that those areas are termed as training samples, and that is used to classify or assign spectral specific spectral values to appropriate information class. So what we are doing in the first step, we are defining the training site. The first step is the training state. The second step is feature selection. The third step is selection of appropriate classification algorithm. The fourth step is post classification smoothing, and the final step is accuracy assessment. So whenever you are going for a supervised classification technique, these are the steps that you have to perform. First, you have to identify the training sites, then to select the feature, then you will be selecting the appropriate algorithm, and finally you will be classifying the image, and thereafter you will be selecting that area. Now for example, this is various spectral channels that we are getting it. This is the false color composite that we have generated. Now what we will do, we'll take different samples pixels from each number of classes, and that responds to water, that responds to sand, that responds to forest, that responds to urban area, that responds to corn cultivation, and that is based on the pixel value that we'll be selecting on your uh, master image or the input image. And finally you can see that the entire pixels that was in the form of digital numbers, now on the basis of the training sets and the training sites, the entire pixels are classified into various land use, land cover categories. So what we do, first in the training stage we collect the numeral data from the training area on spectral response curve of land use, land cover categories. In second stage, we classify and compare each unknown to spectral pattern and assign them to the most simpler category. So what we do, we take, these are the few samples. In the first stage, we have taken the samples of few classes. Now those samples of few classes will be taken as a sample size for classifying the other unknown samples. So finally the output stage will be, you can see this FFFF, you have got this F response to forest, W response for waterlogged area or water body, C response for cropping pattern. So you can see that in the first image only we had a satellite image, but finally when we are classifying it, we'll be getting a classified data set that corresponds to various land use, land cover categories. So these are the basic steps that you have to follow in supervised classification technique. So first what you have to provide, you have to provide the training data. So what do you mean by training data? Training fields are the areas of known identity delineated on a digital image. As we are already, I'm going on emphasizing that you know that area, you know that this signatures, what I am trying to give or classify is an area that I am familiar with, and I know what the class is. And usually, by specifying the corner points of a rectangular or a polygon area using line and column number within the coordinate system of a digital number. So what we do, we create a training set of each and every pixels using the different classes. So what we'll do, we'll select the grow region. Yesterday I've shown you how in the software you will be selecting the data sets and you will be selecting those as a sample area. So what are the important keys that are important for taking the sample size? One is the shape of the training area are not important, provided that shape does not prohibit accurate delineating and positioning of the outline of the digital image. Usually it is the easiest to define rectangular or polygonal area. So what we do, we take a polygon and then we go on limiting the area, we take the sample size. Second, location. So for each and every classes we know that there are seven keys on the basis of which we generally classify image using visual interpretation technique. So one of the key important key in those visual image classification was location. In the same way, here also we'll be using the location as an important key for classifying the image. Then number. What is the number? What is the minimum pixel size that you have generated to create the spectral response curve? So perhaps at least 10 to 15 pixels of each class must be taken as a subclass to identify the number of pixels. So what you can do, if you want to classify the different agriculture area from your satellite image, so you take 5 or 10 different samples for agriculture and then you merge those samples so that a more accurate information, a more average information can be merged together and then we can create a new class. So those 10 signatures will be merging it to create one single class of signature. Then requires your placement, uniformity. These are the important things that you have to see when you are providing, when you are selecting the training sites or the training samples for supervised classification technique. Now once you have taken the signature. Now the second technique through which you have to use is the algorithm. So there are different algorithm that are available in classification technique, but the choice will depend on your results. So parametric classification algorithms, there are various kinds of algorithm. One is parametric, other one is non-parametric. So you have got two kinds of algorithm that are available while you are classifying a supervised classification technique. One is parametric classification, other one is non-parametric classification. So what does parametric classification does? The parametric classification algorithm means equation that assumes that the observed measurement vector that we have calculated for each class in each spectral band during the training phase of the supervised classification are Gaussian in nature. Gaussian in nature means we have already studied that how does Gaussian values look like. The Gaussian values are the Gaussian shape means bell-like shape where you have got 1D, one dimensional is there along the maximum reflectance is in the middle of your grayscale, and at towards the boundary, towards the edges, it will be going down. So it will be looking like a bell shape. So Gaussian is more kind of a uniformity, homogeneous objects are there, and that is they are normally distributed. So that is known as normal, what you can say, a normal curve or a normal histogram or a normal distribution you can say. But when you classify a non-parametric algorithm, that is based on assumption, and it is instructive to review the logic of several classification. The most commonly used non-parametric classification technique, the algorithm that we are using for classifying our satellite image, is based on parallel pi, minimum distance, and maximum likelihood. They are the three classifier. Anybody will ask what are the three classifier that you are using in non-parametric classification technique. So one is parallel, second one is minimum distance, and the last one is maximum likelihood. Now we'll go into the detail. What do you mean by parallel classification algorithm? What do you mean by minimum distance classification? What do you mean by maximum classification? So when you are going for the parallel classification algorithm, this is widely used decision rule based on simple Boolean and OR logic. So this is when parallel is when and OR logic. And means both, or means either. Means and means union, or means intersection. So we are going for union and intersection, just like in a vector. When we are doing, we are using intersection, we are using union. So when you are using union, all the properties are uh, maintained for both the features, vector features, whether that is attribute or whether that is shape files. But when you said or, only the common features area will be selected. So in the same way, the training data in n spectral bands are used for performing this classification, where the brightness value from each pixels of the multispectral data are used to provide n-dimensional mean vector. So what will be again classifying it will be calculating the mean vector of each and every classification, and the mean value of the training data observed from the class C in a band K out of m possible classes are previously defined as SCK, which is the standard deviation of the training class, and C of band K is m possible values. So this is the formula that we are going to use for your parallel classification, where the decision boundaries form a n-dimensional parallel in feature, and if the pixel values lies above the lower threshold and below the high threshold for all n bands evaluated, it is assigned to a unclassed category. Although it is not possible to analyze visually up to three-dimensional, as described in the section in the computer graphic feature analysis, it is possible to create n-dimensional parallel for classification purpose. The Parlapide algorithm is computationally effective method of classifying remote sensing data, but unfortunately, because of some Parlapides overlap, it is possible that an unknown candidate pixel might satisfy the criteria of more than one class. In such cases, it is usually to the first class for which it meets the criteria. So what happens, just like there is a confusion in which class it must go. So whatever comes to me at first, I'll be providing them to a particular class value. In the same way, it happens here also. A more elegant solution is to take the pixels that can assign to more than one class and use minimum distance to mean decision rule to assign just one class. Next method is minimum distance to mean classification algorithm. This decision rule is computationally simple and commonly used. When used properly, it is the result in classification accuracy comparable to other more computationally intensive algorithms such as maximum likelihood algorithm. Like the Parlapide algorithm, it requires that the user provide the mean vector for each class in each band from the training dataset. To perform the minimum distance classification, a program must calculate the distance to each vector from each unknown pixels, and it is possible to calculate this distance using Euclid distance based on Pythagoras theorem. It's just like we have already done. So this is the algorithm where the distance are used to classify the object, and finally you have got maximum likelihood classification where the maximum likelihood decision rules assign each pixels having a pattern of measurement of feature x to the class C whose units are most probable or likely to have given rise to feature vector S. It's assumed that the training data statistics for each class in each band are normally distributed, that is Gaussian. In other words, the training with bi or tri model histogram in a single bands are not identical. In such cases, the individual modes probably represent individual classes that should be trained upon individually and labeled as separate features. This would then produce unimodal Gaussian training class statistics that would fulfill the normal distribution requirement. So maximum likelihood classification make use of statistics already computed and discussed in the previous section, including the measurement vector, the variance, the covariance, the standard deviation that are used to identify the different Earth objects from the spectral channels that we are using it, and finally we'll be classifying each and every Earth object. So how it is done, we'll be seeing through the various figures. So what you see, this is a band 4 image which represents water, forest, hay, corn, sand, and urban area. So pixel observation from the selected data sites are plotted in a scatter plotter. This is the pixel size that we have taken. Now we want to classify this one and we want to classify this two, key in which class they corresponds to. So what we'll do, we'll take out the distance from each and every class, and the pixels value which is closest to the class will be assigned to that pixel value, means the distance. What we are saying, that if I am unknown, what should be my home, what should be my name. So what I am saying, the pixel value which is nearest to you will be your class value. So what you do, you segment that into different, like we have classified this as a water body, you have classified this as a forest area, you have classified this as a uh, horticulture plant, this as a crop, this as a urban periphery, this as a snow area. So what we'll do, in order to classify this one and two, we'll be making and we'll be making a class. So now you can see the one class is more closer to C, and it is coming in both the classes, in H class also, in C class also. So what, on the basis of the various algorithm that you have taken, this one will be classified as C. So you can see that now this one is classified under C and this two is classified under U. Means the distance is taken into consideration for classifying the unknown pixels on the basis of the training data sets that you have generated using your spectral signature. This is the distribution, how it is distributed in n-dimensional space, and how you will be classifying it using the probability density function. Again, what you will be doing, you will be taking out the probability, in which probability the class 1 or the class 2 has the greater probability for getting to a class. So we'll be selecting that, and once we have selected that, we'll go for feature selection. So what is feature selection? The feature selections are those selections in remote sensing where the user may often have to work with a multi-channel data sets to derive useful information. With the advancement in the data reception technology, these volumes of data can often frustrate to select the optimal data sets. However, there are schemes which allow the users to select those dimensions more suitable for processing without unnecessarily increasing the computational time. And this step is called as feature selection or separability analysis, where the selection of variables showing strong discriminative powers. Hence, to avoid redundancy in the feature data sets is a key problem in pattern recognition and termed as a feature selection or feature extraction. So what we'll do, based on various methods of feature selection depending on the class and their statistics, if the statistics are not known, then the first feature selection scheme provided by PCA will be performed, and then the variance and covariance value will be determined for each and every band, and the area and the feature which are highly correlated are selected, and with those with lesser or no correlation are selected for effective analysis. And finally, you will be classifying the image. Now whenever you are classifying an image, you will get a output, whether the output that you have generated through unsupervised or supervised, that depends on the accuracy. What is the accuracy? Anybody will say, okay, you have used this technique, you know what you have done. Now anybody say will ask you, what is the accuracy of your map, the classified map? So how will you take out the accuracy? How would you calculate that whatever signature that you have taken and you have classified the image, whether it is accurate, or what is the amount of error induced in that classified image? And for that you have to perform the classification accuracy in your classified image. So first what you have to do, you have to derive the map, and then you have to derive the true map. So what you have to do, you have to calculate the overall accuracy of the map. So that is known as accuracy assessment. So for that, you have got different methods through which you can perform your accuracy assessment. Like, you can go into the field, you can collect the various sample size of the classes that you have classified through your satellite images. You will be selecting few random samples, and then you will be coming back to your system. You will be plotting the data sets, and then you will see whatever pixels that you have classified to a particular class, what is the range value, what is the true value, whether it is the same feature what you have generated, or whether it is something else when you went into the field. So through that you will be taking out the various kinds of matrices will be generated on the basis of your ground truth data. So one of the most common means of expressing classification is the preparation of classification error matrix. So what we'll do in case there is some error, so on the basis of those generated points that you have selected as a ground control points, the error matrix will be generated for each and every class. So one will be user error matrix, other will be producer error matrix. So this error matrix are also sometimes called as confuser or contingency table. So error matrix compare on a category by category basis the relations between known referred data, the ground truth data what I am talking about, and the corresponding results of the automated classification. So what you will do, you will check the accuracy of each and every class where you have taken out, and then you will be creating a error matrix of each and every pixel. So this is your classified data sets where you will be corresponding the, you will be plotting it into the form of row and columns. You will be plotting all the data sets, and then finally you will be producing two kinds of accuracy will be produced. One is producer accuracy and one is user accuracy. So you can see that what are the producer accuracy from which you will be calculating from the system, and this will be calculated from the user accuracy. And finally, on the basis of your producer and user accuracy, the entire accuracy assessment will be calculated. That is, right now in the current example, if you go for the overall accuracy of the map, the overall accuracy of the map is 84%. Means out of 100% of map, just like in your result, how much you are closer to your result. So 84% was the accuracy assessment, or the accuracy that we have achieved uh, when we have classified the satellite image. So 80% is a good accuracy result, that you can say कि it's your accurate results is accurate. Then you have to see कि which class has got the least accuracy. So you have to increase this class S was the class because of S and U. They are the two class that has got lower accuracy in terms of classification. So if you can improve the classification or the signature sites of this two classes, what will happen? Finally, if you improve these two classes accuracy, your classification accuracy will improve. Like if now it is 84%, if it increases to a more higher number of accuracy percentage, this is the overall accuracy. So this automatically will be improved and it will be more than 90%. And finally, kappa coefficient value is generated. So this is the entire operation that you will be performing for your accuracy assessment, where the various land use land cover category is taken into consideration for classifying of the various land use land cover categories. So there it is. So whether I'm clear with my definitions. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to see कि how the data is classified. So anybody with any question? Yes.
सर वो जो आपने क्लासिफिकेशन का बताया था उसमें एवरेज कितना ले सकते हैं 84 तो है बट लीस्ट कितना हो सकता है
Least it again I said that it depends on person to person. कि what is your accuracy? Like for me, if I'm a interpreter, I'll say I want more than 90 percentage of accuracy is required for my classification. So at least 85%, if you go for a general term or a general definition, like out of 100, what is the expectation of your parent, what is the expectation of you? Maybe someone expects that his guardian or he should get 95% result when you're getting any result, but when you see a result, the result is suggests that your teacher has marked you 80%. So now it is comparatively, it depends on user to user. Maybe your parents are not satisfied, they'll say no, I was expecting 95% and you're also expecting 95%, but you got 80%. That is still good, but still you say I don't want to compromise, I'll go for a higher accuracy. And somebody can say okay, it's fine, the you have at least you have got 80%, it will do. So that is all subjective in nature what the final analyst or the final client or whatever the your principal and investigators wants the result accuracy. It cannot be 100% for sure, that is sure, you cannot have 100%, but if it is more than 90% in any satellite image, it is acceptable. It is acceptable means out of 10 places, 9 places you are correct. Maybe at one place there is some confusion. So that will be there because the area is big. There are confusion classes is there, and that 90% accuracy will be increased in coming of number of days. Will uh, teach you, I'll teach you more what I can say, improved classification techniques like artificial intelligence, neural network, object based classification. There this 84% can be taken up to 90 to 95%. So that will be doing in number or coming classes ki how you will be doing object oriented classes, because here you primarily see that when you're classifying this in unsupervised and supervised classification technique, our prime focus was on signature, means the tonal property was more emphasized for classifying the image. But when you go for the like object oriented classification or other fuzzy based classification or sub pixel classification, will be considering the other parameters like tone, like shape, like pattern, like texture, all location association. They will be also be taken into consideration for classifying or creating the signature. So I know that this feature is different, but because the signature was same, that's why the your through supervised or through unsupervised, the entire operation or the entire pixels were classified into a particular class. But when you are going for a, this is known as hard classification. Hard classification means you don't have the freedom to express. They are limited algorithms, they are prefixed and you are bound to use that. But when you are using the soft classification, you have got other parameters also to be taken into consideration prior to classification. So if you are taking more number of parameters, more number of factors, like if I am going for water potential zonation, I and if I only take water table into consideration, and I'm not seeing land use, I'm not seeing the rainfall, I'm not seeing the geology, I'm not seeing the geomorphology. So obviously my the amount of accuracy of the data will be poorer side, because the number of factors that I have considered for creation of map was limited in nature. But on the other hand, if I take more number of factors, if I take more number of parameters, obviously my accuracy of the classified data will improve. That's why nowadays, whenever you are seeing the latest publications in the field of classification techniques, they are support vector machine, they are artificial intelligence, they are subpixel classification, they are fuzzy neural classification. Why? Because the accuracy, because finally you will get a classified image from all the classification image that you are going, either through unsupervised or supervised or through object oriented classification. The important thing is, or the criteria is, what is your objective, what is the time limit that you have been given, and what is the amount of percentage of accuracy you can accept the error, what is the amount of font that is available, what is the amount of time of the project that is available. For example, if you have got no time, a person wants to get a rough idea with 70 to 80% of the data set. If it is closer to the real world scenario, he wants no, I want to see a overall land use land cover. For that no field work is required, no ground truthing is required, so you will go for the unsupervised classification technique. Now somebody says, you know, I want a precise classification technique, so we'll be going for a supervised classification technique. But after doing the ground truthing, after classifying the image, still the accuracy of my map is on a poorer side. It is not above 70% or 75%, and the client is saying, no, I want the accuracy of the map should be more than 90 to 95%. I cannot accept below that, because I have spent a lot of money in software, training, manuals, ground truth. So I want 90 to 95% of data set. So again, what you have to do, you have to go for the latest techniques like support vector machine, then MLC classifiers are there, then artificial intelligence is there. So there, what happens? We are taking other parameters also into consideration. So the amount of accuracy of the data set, the amount of the accuracy of the map that you are classifying, will increase. So obviously, it is more time will be requiring, because you have to make clusters, you have to make groups, and then you will be taking the various parameters into consideration prior to classification. So that's why that requires more of time. Any question,
No.
Rishabh?
No, sir.
Okay, then now we'll have 5 minutes again of group discussion with the other students, and thereafter your quiz in LMS. And hope that most of the things are clear, and more it will be when we'll be doing in our laboratories. With this, I'll be ending my today's presentation. Okay, then take care. Bye bye.